event, and you know the essence of menu planning for a food business, how important it is. And this is the fourth event, and we have a couple of events lined up in the future. So today, as I mentioned, the event is all about scaling your business in the food industry. So we have very interesting sets of speakers. We're going to have 3 speakers here. We're going to talk about it. The commonalities between these speakers are that they are all from IIT. So the first speaker here is Mr. Rahul Jain, who runs a brand called Dr. Moo, which is a Mumbai-based organic milk company. The second speaker here is Amit Raj, who's founder and CEO of Box 8. It's the India's fastest growing food service QSR, that's quick service restaurant. Meal in a box, you must have all heard about it. And the third speaker is Nipun Katyal. He runs a brand called Chef's Basket, which is a concept of do-it-yourself gourmet food. And over to you. So I'll tell you about Mississippi. So he runs a brand called Mississippi, which is into healthy packaged foods, right? So over to you. Thanks so much.
Hi, thank you all for coming. I'm going to try and moderate it and keep it as free flow. Let's start with a few basic premises that we're here to discuss. What are, well, I think the focus is going to really be around scale and how the 3 speakers here, and all of us are trying to achieve scale in our own businesses within the food space. But scale, I think, actually has so much more to just do with. Scale has to do with a lot more than just the business premise, the business idea, the business plan, and the product. So let's try and we'll touch on that a little bit. But what I actually want to hover on is more the non-commercial aspects of scale. The few things that I'm going to try and focus on are how important is focus, right? From an entrepreneur, from the business itself on its product. The other thing I want to touch upon is perseverance. How important is that, and how quickly should we tweak, pivot, etc., whatever term you'd like to use. And the third and most important, as we go along this entrepreneurship journey, is dealing with adversity. Right? Because there's dealing with commercial adversity, which is, paisa nahi aa raha hai, that the guy's asking too much margin, this, that. But what about the non-commercial adversity, which is I'm an entrepreneur, everybody hates me, and I want to shoot myself. Right? So the fun stuff about giving up, about failure, about all the things that one tends to not talk about for so many social reasons. So let's just start off with 1-2 really bad jokes, because as Hitesh is going to certify, I am a sea of bad jokes. I mean, I am an unending supply of bad jokes. One is my restaurant. I'm going to be already funded by Bloom. Karthik's always taught me that one of the most important things to the business actually is scale. Whether you're Mississippi or you're Facebook, he says cash may be king, but distribution is King Kong. Never to forget. And the second thing is why we're talking about the non-commercial aspects is, I think for an entrepreneur it's actually as important as the commercial aspects of a business. I was sitting with a fellow Bloom funded company just before I came here this afternoon, a company called Now Floats, which is in the local focused SEO mobile business. We come to that. Very, very complex, I didn't understand any of it, but he taught me something. He said, Sardar, Sminder. And he taught me a quote that his friend uses quite often, which may resonate most. It starts off with, Kal kare so aaj kare so ab. Agar kaam hi karte jaoge, to chai piyoge kab. Right? Again, drawing focus on there are so many other non-commercial aspects to really being an entrepreneur. Right? Let's start off with a quick introduction. I actually know I've met you before, I know a little bit about you. I'd like to know a little bit about the business. And then let's spend a few minutes on the commercial aspects of the business, but more importantly on the non-commercial aspects, and how important are both of them to build business. Rahul, it's up to you.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. So I'm Rahul Jain. I've started this brand called Dr. New Organic Milk, and so we've been about a year old in the market now. So we started in Mumbai, and so one of the main reasons we started.
Can you take the mic?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the main reasons we started with this concept of organic milk and why we started it, so basically was to, so we noticed the rapid adulteration that's going on in the milk market, and we felt that this is something which is very, very close to every Indian family's heart. Milk is an integral part of the Indian diet. And that is when we decided, okay, let us set the gold standard for quality in milk and milk products. And that's how we actually got started. It's a very long journey before starting the actual thing. But yeah, so that's in brief of what I do.
Hey everyone, so I'm Amit and I'm co-founder of Box8. And we formed this company a couple of years back, and since then we are trying to carry out this chain across Mumbai, growing pretty fast. So the reason we started that we saw a massive opportunity in this particular industry, the food industry, and it was highly unorganized at the time, and currently also there is so much of opportunity, and apart from few global players, nobody has actually tapped up this opportunity, and that's where we decided to kind of jump into this industry. What we have done, we have this product of Box, which is a very modern, contemporary presentation to Indian food. So we are presenting the core Indian food in a very contemporary and in a very modern presentation which suits the modern age Indian, that's how I would put it. And we are seeing some tremendous response from our customer base across the city, and really excited to the kind of growth we are experiencing.
Hey guys, I'm Nipun. I'm the co-founder of Fizzy Food Labs. We've launched our first brand, Chef's Basket. We launched it about a year back. In fact, we started our journey 2 years back. It took us about a year to actually commercialize the product, and actually it took a year before it hit the market. The concept is that it's a basket of different authentic ingredients in measured quantities to be able to make a dish. And these are dishes from across Italian, Mexican, and Thai cuisines. And it's a pack that is, it's priced at about 300 odd bucks. Serves 3 people, and we sell it through retail. So stores like the entire modern trade, for example, Nature's Basket, Hypercity, these are the kind of stores where they're available. At present, we're there in 4 cities: Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore. Very recently, we started with NCR. Pretty interesting journey. Chef's Basket is just the first brand that we have in the pipeline, and we just launched the first format, which is the recipe kit. A lot of other next formats within the same brand and the next brand, and different formats that we are currently conceptualizing are in the pipeline. We'll have to talk about that later.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a bunch of very quick questions, just so we zero down on what the real focus of each of these businesses are. What is the focus of your business? Is it a product company? Is it a distribution company?
So at the moment we are a distribution company, but the focus is that going forward the vision is to become a product company. We plan to create a category of healthy snacks. So the work on the product research has already started. So we aim to get there in the next 6 months. At the moment, we're only in the distribution and marketing of milk.
But how does the distribution of milk tie in with healthy snacks?
No. So the product will be different. It will be a milk-based product, but that will be developed exclusively by us, and so that's where we aim to be going forward. So fresh milk is just a starting point into the market, and thereon we move on to milk-based product.
So I was only as much as you want.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a packaged product, or is this going to be like a ready to serve, or ready to eat, or ready to bake?
It will be a packaged product.
So you're going to then become a product company, or going to ride on the distribution that you currently create?
Yes, exactly. So that is the, so we basically right now our focus has entirely been on setting up our distribution and our supply chain, and going forward then we'll move into a product-based company.
Sure. So ours is a very simple business, right? So we have these outlets and we sell food. It's as simple as that. And what we believe that we place our customers or consumers or our users really at the core of the business, right? So the idea is to have these great tasting products and deliver it with mind-blowing consumer experience. So that's how we are.
How do you find mind-blowing consumer experience?
So the entire experience, right, from ordering food to the way you are consuming food to finally the way your inputs are taken, the way food is delivered. So that entire end-to-end piece, right, from the ordering when customers order with us, the entire experience has to be very, very seamless, and that's the very big focus for us.
So are you a service company or a product of food QSR?
We are a product company, and the entire peripheral of service around the product has to be seamless. So that has to be taken.
What is the product that you make?
We have these, we sell these boxes which are Indian meal in a box. So you have got these different boxes which have rice or paratha based meals. And very contemporary presentation to the entire Indian food, which typically comes in a thali, and you have all the curries and rice and roti coming as different ingredients. What we have done, we have taken the entire thali, put it in that box, which becomes very, very convenient to consume, and at the overall level, this is a great tasting product.
But the focus of the company is product development in the Indian food packaged in a box that is convenient to carry away.
Carry away, deliver, and also people. Yeah.
But that's the focus of the business, right? The delivery, etc. is all of us need to do. What about you?
We're very clearly a product company. Our entire focus is on building the brand. The idea is
The brand of the product.
the product. So essentially, the idea is to experiment with different product formats, and that is what that is essentially the vision of the company. The first product that we have launched is a recipe kit. That, as a concept, is something which we felt there was a gap in the market. So, for example, if you look at the barriers to cooking world food at home, ingredient availability is one, price point is another, lack of portion packs available in the market is the third, and overall cash outlay as a result of no portion packing available in the market. And the fourth thing is the taste palette. So most of the imported or the authentic ingredients are actually imported. The taste palette is something that does not really, it doesn't really match the taste palette. So if you go to your favorite restaurant, for example, the Spaghetti Kitchen, to eat a pasta, versus if you purchase any imported pasta sauce, you won't really get the similarity there. So the idea is to kind of, to create a product that caters to an unmet demand in the, in the current market, and continuously keep experimenting, keep coming up with different product formats. That is the core focus. So we are a product company.
So yeah, I mean, I'm happy that all of you feel that you're a product companies. Because I mean, are probably in the food space, right? I mean, I think at some level we have to leverage the distribution that already exists.
Absolutely.
I think Moo is actually doing it really, really well. They've got an innovative distribution idea. Also, by virtue of me having met Rahul before, they actually piggyback on the Dabbawalas, which we've all heard about being done before, but they actually do a pretty good job of it. They take the downtime of the Dabbawalas as distribution. Okay, so let's move on very quickly to scale. What scale do you want to get your business to, and how are you going to get there?
So, in terms of scale, let me take a time horizon. So, for example, in the next 2 years, I would want to be present in at least 12 cities at a total of about 1,200 odd outlets. That is with respect to retail. As compared to the second channel, which we're trying to tap, is institution. We do not have the right product right now for that channel, but that is under development. The second channel is institution, wherein we're trying to target cafes, wherein we're trying to target multiplexes. And these are essentially the two channels where we want to be present.
What is the shelf life of your product?
It's 9 months.
How are you going to achieve this scale? Just by virtue of rollout?
See, so I think the first and the most important thing is you have to have the right product for the right channel. At present, we are there in only 150 stores. Why is that? Because the product is currently positioned as a premium product. So I cannot be present at a local Kirana wala or a B category general trade store or even a DMart, for example. These are the stores where we're not present. The next product format which is being developed in the pipeline is going to be at a much sweeter price point. It's going to be a lighter version of our current product under a different sub-brand. And that is where we are trying to, through that product, we will try to increase our scale. As you rightly said, yes, distribution is very important. So finding the right kind of distributors. And that is, as a philosophy, we make sure that each and every partner that we have shares the same philosophy, believes in the brand, and selecting the right distributors, selecting the right stores, and the right products going to the right stores. That's the way we look at it. Some products, so the way we categorize our stores is boutique, hyper, and super. So if I talk about a Nature's Basket or a food hall, or even I'm not sure how many of you have been to the store known as Premsons in in South Bombay. So these are all boutique stores, wherein the kind of clientele is premium. They are trying to seek premium products, the right kind of products in those stores. In a DMart, we would have a different kind of a product which is more suited to that profile. So I think the right product mix across the right channel. The next brand, which is in the pipeline, is World Cafe. I'd just like to give you a glimpse of that. So we're launching a chip dip in a tray packing. So today you have nachos, you have cornitos, you have Doritos available, and you have different dips like salsas and guacamole, some with a very limited shelf life, available in boutique stores like Nature's Basket and Food Hall, and some which are in packaged form, like a bottle of Doritos. Now what we're saying is that we will skip the we will skip the existing level of launching chips and dips and straight away go to the more value-added format, wherein we launch a chip and a dip in a single tray format. So products like pita crisps with hummus, products like nachos with salsa, these are the kind of products which would be a part of World Cafe. Out there, apart from for that particular brand, apart from retail and apart from retail and institution, even segments like let's say a PVR or these multiplexes would be one of the channels that we would want to tap into. So the idea is keep looking, explore all the channels, create the relevant product for the channel and scale up.
What I see actually is the focus on the channel as opposed to the product.
Not really. The product is definitely important. That is the backbone. So for example, first the idea is to identify.
Let me pause you for a second and give everybody a little context as to why I'm asking this question. When Hitesh was asked me to actually moderate this panel, he said that Jaideep, the one thing that we actually definitely need to bring out, and I think the audience wants to know, and it may have been crowdsourced from things that people actually are interested in, is not box 8, but there are a lot of QSR companies that today start off with selling sandwiches. For the first month, the sandwiches sell, and then the sandwich sales drop down. And then they start selling chicken Manchurian. And then a month later, the chicken Manchurian sales drop down. And then they start selling subs. And then a month later, the sub sales drop down. And then they start selling soups. And then a month later, the soup sales drop down. Is that the right way to be building a business? Is that the focus? Should you be like, a customer ko ye chahiye, main ye bech raha hu, anything? Or should it actually be more longevity, more inward based? I am going to make a world-class product. It may take a little longer to find the market. Of course, it has to have the market fit. I mean, like if you now launch a double deep fried with a bacon or a beef stuffing product, it's probably not going to fly in 5 years, right? But ulta, if you actually make, like I think most of us are generally feeling a slightly more slightly healthier variant of most things. There's a focus on it. Again, is the market here or is it imminent? That's something we can discuss differently. So, but I was actually specifically asked to address the conversation from a focus of should we be selling sandwiches followed by paninis, followed by subs, followed by soups, followed by noodles? Or is it, let's create a business around this product? And that's actually why I'm asking this question.
I think it's absolutely important to kind of boil down. You have to be focused on something. You have to stand for something. This is what I sell. So at present, the way we define Chef's Basket is you can cook world food conveniently at home.
So that's
right.
Now that's the focus.
Right. So
are you cooking lasagna or you're cooking,
No, so I actually divulged into a second brand that was World Cafe. So I'll just keep that aside. Chef's Basket is centered around three cuisines: Italian, Mexican, Thai. Within these three cuisines, there are different recipes. Our core business is to sell cooking sauces. That is our core product, right? Now I'm actually boiling it down to let me answer your question. Now I understand your question better. Cooking sauces is our core line of business. The idea is we will make cooking sauces that are as big as nobody has ever made. Now, the cooking sauces market is very small. The consumption of cooking sauces in India is very, very limited. Out of every 20 people who go and purchase a pack of half kg of pasta, probably 1 or 2 would pick up a bottle of cooking sauce. So the idea was to drive the consumption of cooking sauce. From that, so when we actually, when we actually dug deeper as to why aren't the cooking sauces being consumed, like a Thai curry paste or or a stir fry sauce, people just don't know how to go about cooking that. They don't know what will I do if I pick up this bottle. That is where the concept of recipe kit actually came into existence. That we will solve the problem. We will give all the different ingredients. The cooking sauce is something that we manufacture as per our own recipe. Everything else inside that kit is a commodity. I'll give you one example. One of our products is creamy tomato penne pasta. It includes 200 grams of Italian penne. It's a commodity imported from Italy. It's got 10 ml of extra virgin olive oil. Again, it's a commodity. You import and you package it. It's got 300 grams of pasta sauce. That's the most expensive component of my recipe kit. That is something which is my core line of business. That's what we manufacture, again, through contract manufacturing, but as per our recipe. That is something that we domestically manufacture. And then there are herbs and salt and other things along with the recipe at the back. So, what we saw in certain stores, let me take an example. Hypercity in Malad is one of the stores that performs really well. At that store, we were selling recipe kits in terms of numbers, more recipe kits than the highest selling pasta sauce brand. So that gave us the confidence that today, if we can get to that number, what we're actually trying to do is create the market or create the consumption of pasta sauce. Now 2 months from now is when we are going to launch our pasta sauces in the bottle. And that is where, once the consumer has tried the Chef's Basket recipe kit, he then would go and as a mature consumer would pick up the pasta sauce. So that's the focus.
I think, for me at least, you probably answered the question of scale and focus together with that one, eureka moment. My next question is, I forgot. Well, let's move on. I remember our last one. So, what about you? What to you is scale, and how are you going to go about achieving it?
Right, so the way we see scale, right, so we see two sides of it. One being the demand side of it, that you need to create that or scale up that demand from your consumers for your product or for your service, whatever you are trying to do. And then on the supply side, you need to develop or kind of enhance your infrastructure to cater to that demand, right? So there are two pieces to it. The way we see the demand side of it, that each customer at a time or one customer at a time, and you need to have that, again, the mind-blowing consumer experience. Aspire for that every time you interact with the consumer, and that's where your demand scales up, right? So you can have short-term measures to kind of boost up the demand, but long-term scalability of demands come from creating those great moments for your consumer through the combination of your product and the entire kind of delivery mechanism or entire service mechanism you have. And then the kind of servicing part of it or the supply side of it is equally important. So as you are scaling up your demand by creating the good work in the market, you need to keep on investing in your back-end technologies, in your team and in your processes, so that you are kind of parallelly increasing your infrastructure to meet that higher demand. So that's how we see it. And in terms of how massive this opportunity is and how big we can scale it up, is enormous. This kind of like a couple of people have done it. People like Domino's and McDonald's have done it, and everybody can see that what they have done it in such a small span of time. I would say if they could do it, everyone else has a fair chance of doing the same.
Are you also going to divulge a eureka moment to all of us as a confession, just like Nipun just did, which is we make cooking sauces? Do you have one? Do you have
No. Yeah, no. Ours is very simple, right? So each customer at a time, and then keep on building that back-end technology and
That's taken for granted. I mean,
Right.
you're not going to have the customer if you don't have the back.
Right.
But even at the customer level, have you templatized that mind-blowing experience? Is it a video where you show people, the guy comes in for an interview today, can you do this in 30 seconds or something? Have you templatized that mind-blowing experience?
Not really. So
I'm basically trying to drill down to
Mhm.
see what is that, that one game-changing thing that you've probably chanced on, which actually gives focus and then direction and vision to the whole business.
Right. So I would not say that it would be one thing, right? Or it's never one thing. It's a combination of a lot of things. It's a combination of great product and it's a combination of great delivery experience. It's a combination of how fast you are learning in the market. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
That's the success of business.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm saying, how do you want to scale? What is your focus? I'm going to get this right, and by virtue of getting this right, these 19 things will fall into place anyways.
Right, so keep your consumers happy. So whatever small consumer base we have 20 outlets, and the idea is that across all locations have those great consumer experiences in that customer base, and that's what we have done so far, and that has paid great dividends.
Okay, Rahul.
I actually belong to a slightly different school of thought. So my thinking is that as a startup, okay, the most important thing is that when you get into the market, right, there are 10, 20 different things that open up to you immediately. But where as a startup, what defines your path is that are you able to focus on one thing that you started with, and if you're able to first build on that. So to answer your question about what that game-changing thing for us was, so what we thought was, so that's why when we decided to launch, we were very clear that we want to make it a hyper-localized launch. So we wanted to start with only one area because mine is a daily delivery business. Once I start in one area, I cannot stop. And although as soon as we started in one area, through word of mouth or through some media coverage that we got, word started getting around about the milk. We started getting calls from all areas, South Bombay, from Badala, Pravai, etc., etc. And that time it was very, very tempting. Okay, we are getting calls from these areas. Let us start in this area also. We're getting calls from here. We're getting a lot of traction over here. But what we did, and we did fall into that trap also with a couple of areas. But what we realized is that the business is such that once you start, you cannot stop. And that's why when you get over there, your operations have to be fully. So the one thing that we realized was that the system, the distribution systems in terms of the deliveries, in terms of the payment collections, in terms of the service level, has to be so strong that after this, once I set that template up, all I have to do is just have to find one distributor, get my message across to him, and then start a new area. So for us, our entire focus for the first 6 months was just getting that template right in a very, very localized area. And once we were able to do that, so for the first 6 months of operation, we are only a 9-month-old operational company. So for the first 6 months, we were only present in between Bandra to Juhu. And there were a lot of temptations, we did get a lot of calls, but we were very clear we do not want to expand. And then after that, we now cover, in just 3 months, we cover almost 60% of Bombay. So because we have a very set pattern, we have a very set template, and we are able to successfully roll out in any new area in just one day. So that is.
Hold that thought. Now that you've hit on that template, you've hit on that formula, how confident are you of scale?
So now now we are absolutely very, very confident about it.
That for me actually is the eureka moment, right? It's there are all these cool words that we all keep throwing around, right? Traction, pivot, business plan, game changing, all of these fun, cool phrases. I think as a young entrepreneur, when you're outside of a business, the opportunities seem to you, which is why you're going to jump into it to start with. There are going to be challenges that you're unforeseen and you have no concept of how to deal with, except to deal with them. But I think in many ways, probably the success or failure of a good business is going to be that focus. He's in the dairy business, right? The one thing that comes to mind when you talk dairy is shelf life, right? The chance of you getting unwell with, bad dairy is so high that he figured that, okay, fine, we're going to do organic milk and we're also going to do products, but the distribution is the key thing. So let's not do 25 areas, let's do one area and make sure that we can probably, I don't know, I'm probably, overstepping the idea because I'm not very well as well. Let's sell all 20 products to these 20 customers because they're already buying us. And that's great, and that's a great business already there. So we've spoken about scale, and I'm happy that you also actually woven a very real life story of how your business has grown. You haven't shared numbers, which is all right, but you've also spoken about commercial aspects of the business. Now let's speak about non-commercial, like hardcore non-commercial aspects, which is perseverance and dealing with adversity. Which actually, it sounds like a cool phrase, but what I'm actually asking is how do you deal with failure?
So I think that's the most integral part of when you begin your life as an entrepreneur. And every day, every day you will get new challenges, and the thought at the end of the day is that okay, so I don't know whether I will have a business tomorrow or not. And what happens is that whenever you get a good news, I actually became very cautious. Okay, and what's the next news that is coming in? Because good news is always followed by two bad news. So but at the end of it, first of all, perseverance is the key. So everybody just says this. It's thrown about a lot. But what happens is that when you get down to business, you face so many situations that you don't know whether that you will be able to survive or not. But if you are actually in it, you just have to be mad about it. I think that according to me is the key. The passion has to be so much that even if you are you are able to just persevere for the first 2 years, then I think then you've got a great business running. But for the first 2 years, you will, trust me, have a lot of situations where you think that okay, this is not going to work. Let me just shut down. Let me go back to a good life. All of us have been from good corporate jobs, and that lure always keeps on coming back to you. That okay, I used to have such a good executive life. I was staying in 5 stars. I was traveling every other month. So that lure is always there. But at the end of it, that is the reason I said that you have to be mad about this thing. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to sustain going forward.
So basically, what you're saying is passion-based business.
Yes. You have to be absolutely passionate about it.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right, so early years or early months are going to be they'll test you, they'll test how passionate and how motivated you are towards your goals, and how strongly and how convicted are you in your vision, and that would keep you driving. But on an encouraging side, once you get into that game, it's very thrilling, it's very challenging, and it's very encouraging. You are at the center of all this dynamic world, and you see and you learn so much at such a rapid pace. So once you go through that early patch, again, even once you cross that early patch, there will be moments or there will be days when you will feel that okay, the entire world is falling apart, and all those kind of moments will be there. But once you cross that early phase of your journey, then it's very, very thrilling and very, very enriching and amazing learning experience. So that's a very encouraging side of it. Yeah.
So, just very quickly, have you had any early failures?
Failures, not really. So we started as a Mexican team, and then
met below every single month or month. You've never actually even missed it by one day.
So there are moments that when you are thinking things are not.
I'm gonna come work for you, man.
There would be moments or there would be days when you would feel that okay, whether it's heading in the right direction or not. But if you keep on pushing, right, and if you keep on learning, if you keep your eyes and ears very, very open, you learn from the market, you tweak your model, and then the journey goes on. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I think perseverance is very, very important. So as I said, I quit my job, myself and my co-founder Varun both quit our jobs 2 years back. We guys felt that probably, as per the on paper plan, we felt that 6 months में product लेके डाल देंगे. That's the way it is.
South Bombay में flat खरीदेंगे यार. What product डाल देंगे? You could have proper plans यार. I mean, minimum 40 crore net profit.
And that's the way it is, right? So in fact, I was working with Booz and Company. They have their office in entire in this very complex itself, and the kind of job that it was used to tell companies how to do their business right, making models and giving gyan, mota in consulting. When I actually came on ground, what we realized was that number one, biggest problem is FMCG is all about scale. And when we were starting off very organically, we never had, from day one, we would never have the kind of volume. So all the vendors would, one thing that they would ask is, kitna volume, cost income hoga, volume. So it was, I think that the first year wherein we wanted to partner with the right kind of vendors and get the product right, that entire, and we thought we would be able to do that in 6 months. It actually took us about 14 months. And then 7th month, 8th month, mom would ask, okay, kuch ho raha hai, nahi ho raha hai, band kar raha hai. All it started happening, right? So all the relatives would call, ki acha kuch kamana shuru hua, product kab aa raha hai, all of that. And even after launching, it's not like you launch the product and you have the money. It takes you time to break even. So I had a tough time, especially with my relatives, because no one from my in my family comes from a business background. They're all into service, typically working in public sector kind of companies. So even now, if I get a call from my grandmother, beta kuch kamana shuru kiya ke nahi hai, and I just tell them, yeah, it's going fine. But I think if I wouldn't have persevered during that time, I think the one thing that is very important, one learning rather I'd like to share, I think it was very helpful to have a co-founder. That's the one thing that worked for me. I do not.
And the one thing that's currently not working for me, as the investors actually say. Ravi actually Ravi is my co-founder and looks after ops in my company. He's from the US. He's a coconut. He's white on the inside and black on the outside. Oh, brown on the outside, right? Ravi's so he's very new to a lot of the processes here. But actually, you're right. I think just having somebody to be able to shoot the shit with, for want of a better word, without no offense, just somebody to, just like talk rubbish with and just be like, dude, why isn't that guy listening to me? Why can't the margins come down? It's such a simple thing. It's very, very important.
Yeah, let's just switch off our cell phones and go have beer.
Yeah.
He's never asked me to do that.
That's the official story, right? That's what the email read. You're not supposed to say these things. Okay, so I'm happy that we found a sweet spot in the conversation. This is actually what Hitesh asked me to really dig deep and get to this heart of, because I think very often a lot of business forums actually talk more about cash flow and all the other intelligent things in business, as opposed to some of the non-commercial, equally important parts of the business, which is if you don't have a supportive family / relationships, co-founder, friend, aunt, grandmother, spouse, it can actually decimate your business. Your failure is going to come at breakneck speed. And if you'd like to touch upon that, on how the entrepreneur or the early stage ecosystem in many ways encourages or should encourage, or there are other ideas that we can explore to encourage perseverance, to encourage dealing with failure, and how failure is okay, pivoting is okay, making a mistake is okay. Because largely, let's face it, as Indians, we are taught that failure is devil, right? You're not allowed to fail, you're not allowed to get divorced, you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to, not come in the 98th percentile of your ICSE exams. You're not allowed to not go to IIT. You have to go to IIT. I didn't, but you're not allowed to go to, not allowed to not go to IIT. So how important is that early ecosystem around you, and how do you build it? How did you all encourage it? How did you all keep, that candle burning in the wind?
See, I think the way the Indian society is, as Jaideep rightly mentioned, failure is not an option, basically, and the reason it is not an option, so even though your parents might be supportive of it, right, what you have to see is that they also live in a society where everybody then questions, okay, what is he doing? Acha, yahan pe Deutsche Bank mein tha, is investment banker, ab दूध बेच रहा है, all that. So that kind of a thing then starts hitting you a lot, because every day you're being told the same thing over and over again. But
so Rahul, how is your startup doing?
That's the question I get asked every day, and again, exactly. So what you have to, so again, to deal with it, you just have to be adamant, because you just have to say no. If you are, as Amit rightly mentioned, you have to have conviction in what you are doing. If you have conviction, and so then, in fact, the naysayers then become a very big asset to you, because then it is like, okay, if he's saying that it can't be done, let me now try and do it. Let me actually do it. And what Nipun also said is very true, that when you're just starting up, right, you're always stressed for resources, and your volumes are just not there. And so what is very disheartening at the beginning is that everybody, whenever you go to them, okay, I'll start with 200 liters, and you're like, dude, I just came here with 10 liters. So, and he's like, oh sorry, then I won't do it. So these kind of setbacks happen a lot to you earlier, and that is where it becomes even more important to have that kind of ecosystem around you. For example, your co-founder has to be obviously equally mad about it, and then your family comes second, because at the end of the day, whatever they might say to you, they have to, they don't, although they don't have an option but to believe in you. But it is very important that they actually trust in you, they place their bets on you, and whenever somebody from the society asks them, they actually say, proudly that yes, my son is doing this, and yeah, this is what he's up to achieve. So that is very important.
So how much do you pay your parents to say these things?
Right now they are paying me to do what I'm doing, so later on.
So you've not yet gotten down to bribes?
No.
Yeah, so parents, I would say, are very, very tricky in Indian context. They come from, typically, at least in my case, they come from, they were all government servants, and come from a very risk-averse or conservative mind frame. So everyone in my family used to work, and everybody had a very set career path. And I was working in Deutsche in the prime brokerage group. So when I decided to quit and join, start my own venture, and that to start restaurants or these outlets, they suddenly made a lot of interesting comments, similar to yeah. So it's very, very interesting to deal the entire parents' expectations in your early years. And as both of them has mentioned, having a co-founder really helps, and it gives you a lot of strength in all those moments when things are not falling in place and things are not going the way you thought of. So yeah, so parents are very interesting, I would say, in your early days. With all those interesting questions, it might be much easier to convince your investors that you are doing great, but convincing the same things to parents, it will become far more challenging in those early days. And then having a co-founder really helps.
So there's actually just one thing that I would like to add. So I actually come from a business family, okay? So I do not come from a service-oriented family. And even then I face these issues, because so the business that my parents or before them also, that they are used to, they used to a very traditional kind of a business, like we are into retailing, and we have apparel retail showrooms, etc. in Delhi, which is a very different kind of a business. So what they understand is either you get into a banya kind of a business where it is a itna paisa lagega, itna aayega, and cash inflow, outflow, etc. But over here, what all of us are trying to do is we're trying to build a business from scratch, which is in the business of building a brand, which is a much longer play. So
two bits there.
Exactly.
I'm sure you've already gotten completely insular to it, right? Because I think that, another asset that we absolutely must write down on the entrepreneurship journey is there isn't yet a business that sells this, but all of us need the skin of a pig, or the skin of a donkey. I mean, because the amount of brickbats that people are going to throw your way and call you shit like, up to but listen, I can make $1 million business out of selling doodh, and that's all right, and that's acceptable. But it's going to take a little while before all of this really comes around and being entrepreneurs becomes relevant in our economy.
And one more thing I would like to add upon the ecosystem question, right? So how do you create that ecosystem of support in your early days? So what we have, and looking backwards, what we realize that having great entrepreneurs around you, kind of roping in few few people who have gone through that journey and kind of who can tell you that okay, so this is how this happens. There will be these moments, and then there will be these paths. There will be these struggles. So kind of getting some really good successful entrepreneurs or people who have gone through that path. That also helps a lot. So kind of, we managed to get people like Kaushal and Dheeraj from very early stage, and their experiences and their learnings and their kind of confidence in the overall business has certainly helped a lot in dealing with a lot of those moments.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with.
Anything you'd like to add on top of that?
Nothing really. I think having the right co-founder really matters. Just, I mean, on a separate note, I've seen a lot of startups just falling apart because of the incompatibility of people, and I think it's literally like a second marriage more than anything else. And I think if you have that right, probably 80 to 90% of the support is where I think the co-founder really helps. And yes, definitely, I think so. Specifically from IITB, there have been like the startup scene is pretty good. So we have, so almost, I mean, I see half my batch, they've like literally quit their jobs and they've been doing something or the other. That gives you some sort of encouragement. You know, I'll actually tell my mom that, oh, Paddy ne bhi quit kar diya, wo bhi ab ye kar raha hai, Dolly doodh bech raha hai,
वो भी दूध
ye kar raha hai. That helps.
Interesting. So, you know, let's keep it a little bit more dynamic now and open it up to a few key questions that can then guide some more repetition and then move on to a proper question and answer session. So, I'd still like to hover around the whole scale idea because I know that a lot of people, look, all ideas are good, right? I think a lot has to do with all the elements that we spoke about here, plus all the commercial elements, plus the government allowing you to function with a one-click credit card payment, like in the case of Uber, and all of the other myriad of things that actually have to, you know, progress in the right way. But is the idea scalable? Right? Scale means different to different people, but is the idea in itself scalable? But what you have to say something?
Yeah. Seems on. Nipul, I'm about to pay you a big compliment. Is your product the one where it reads, "Are you checking out my bottom?"
Yeah. Stop checking out.
Stop checking out my bottom. Okay. So that's a fantastic concept. I mean, my 8-year-old son, he had picked up one of the product, and next time he told me to get that home, usually it's not there in stock. I'm talking about Jewelry area. So the way I figured it out is where that box which reads, "Stop shaking up my bottom." Okay. So something to for all three of you, while we are talking about scale, and the way I understand is each of you are having a different concept revolving around food. So how do you keep constantly assessing feedback when you're scaling up? Like, for example, I have tried your product, etc. If you would want, because you are in the business of, let's say, sauces is your core. Now you will keep developing more and more sauces. And how you, so typically a stage comes when you can deploy a lot of research around it. But at this stage, while you're trying to grow, while you're trying to scale up, so how would you typically think of getting feedback? And this is actually open to then subsequently the
Yeah, I think you've asked a fantastic question. Feedback is, so I would say the current product that we have in the market, we know it and we accept it that it is not the perfect product. And the model that we've followed so far to develop this sauce, it has been an iterative process, right? So I'll just take, let me explain this with the example of a sauce. So one is the benchmarking with the restaurants. You actually, that's the best part. You go to different restaurants, we eat the same recipe, and try to figure out, what's the kind of dish that you want to give. You interact with chefs, try to understand what's the popularity, taste profile, everything. Second is you do a package food benchmarking. 20 brands from across the world, you kind of try them out. You get the chef on board. We actually, to be able to hedge it, we had a panel of 10 different chefs from across the cuisines. One of them was leading the process. It was an iterative process which took about 4 or 5 iterations till we got the product right. Now, on the feedback front, while developing the product, we had a group of 20 odd consumers. Now when an ITC or a Doritos or a PepsiCo does it, they take like a 5,000 base of consumers and they test it out, they spend like crores of rupees. So we did not have the resources to be able to do that. So we said it pretty clearly that we will launch the product once let's say 18 out of the 20 or 17 out of the 20 people are fully convinced that yes, I would buy it, I would eat it, and I would buy it again. And then subsequently we will keep collecting feedback and improve. So one of the things that we did was we launched this concept of join the tasting panel. So on the back of the bag, we're saying that if you've tried the product, please give us your honest feedback, and you join the tasting panel. Then all our upcoming products that are in the pipeline, we'll keep sending you that, keep trying it and give us your honest feedback and stuff. So far we have about 250 odd people who have actually given their feedback. That is one input that helps. Secondly, in the store, whoever purchases the product, sometimes there's a guy or a gal who kind of stands there who's like a brand promoter who tries to sell. We request for data points, like what's your name and number and would you be like to be contacted, just in a non-buggy kind of way. Depending on the product that he or she has purchased, we actually actively call them and ask them for feedback. Third thing is we actually gave our products out to multiple food bloggers, told them to try it out and give us, write about it if they like it, whatever they honestly felt about it. So there were about 15 odd blogs where they have written about it. There have been criticisms as well, no doubt about that, but that is another thing. And then we also give it to chefs. So this iterative process is what helps us improve the products, and the feedback is through all of these channels.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right, so taking consumer feedback and understanding how exactly they are perceiving your product, that you might be thinking that you are a rock star and you have designed some product which everybody would go crazy about, and more often than not that's certainly not the case. You don't hit the bullseye right in your first attempt. So it's very, very important to very closely listening to your customers, and then this iterative process of refining your product, service, and entire process. So in our business, we are lucky enough that we are able to identify our customers. Whoever orders, we have their phone numbers, and then we have in our early days we used to personally stand in our outlets, talk to we used to have KRAs like so in a week's time we need to talk to 100 customers and understand what are their views around our model and product and service, pricing, all those kind of things. And over time we have institutionalized that practice that our entire team. Everybody talks to the consumer. We have created different avenues to collect feedback, be it like portals like Zomato or others. So yes, it's very important, and as any kind of venture or any business scales it up, there has to be I say there has to be mechanisms to be created to capture that consumer feedback around different aspects of the business.
I think that as to mention, feedback is the most important part when you are starting out, and for us, so it's much simpler for us because we are in touch with our customers every day. So basically every day, so I have a couple of people sitting just to basically call up people and take their feedback, and people are more than happy to do that. And so we started with about 20 liters per day in December 2013, and today we are almost touching 1,000 liters per day. And we have not done any marketing, trust me, we've not done any marketing. It has been purely through word of mouth, that people only refer to us, their friends, families, etc. So we must be doing something right on the product at least. So, and what happens is that, what we've realized is that people, if you engage with people, with customers on a one-to-one basis, right, they are more than happy to share their thoughts with you. So we have had so many people telling us, so when we started out, right, we just had this one product offering milk, and whenever if by chance we go to any event or anything, right, so we used to promote milk over there. But then the feedback came from our customers that the curd that comes out from this milk is very good. The paneer that makes from this milk is very good. And they started sending us photos of the paneer that they made, some paneer satays, etc. that they made, which was really surprising for us, because that just shows that, that if you engage with people or personally on a one-to-one basis, they are more than happy to engage with you. And that gave us the idea, okay, that these are some of the future products that we can get into it, because this is the strength of our product. Then why not, then you use that as a marketing tool whenever if you're selling your product to people. So and that is straight consumer feedback. So at the end of the day, the market is king. Whatever ideas we may have, whatever we may think, if the market is the king, if the market does not take the product well, then all the tam cham that you have done before that goes to waste. So that's why it is the most important aspect of the business.
Yeah, hi. This is my question to Avi. You said, I think you got about 19 outlets. About outlets. Okay, so this must be decentralized outlet and managed by, as far as a paid employee, or I don't know whether you have got a franchise kind of concept. How do you create a customer experience in the event if the guy out there does not share your own passion that you have as far as internet is concerned? How do you do that?
Right, so it's kind of, if you are planning to scale, right, so what is very, very crucial is to have a great team, right, so you have equally passionate people, and certainly building that team is a challenge, and every business aspires to have those kind of individuals in their team, and it's a constant process to build that team. We have set very high standards in terms of the people we will have as our group. Be it our core team, which is currently 10-member team currently. All of them are great young guys with a couple of years of experience, having similar kind of passion of changing the world and all those kind of things. So we have a great team at the core level, and even at the store level, we have been able to kind of nurture talent in a fashion that everywhere at every level there is a lot of hunger for growth. And we only kind of take people who have those basic hunger for growth, who want to kind of grow in their career at a rapid pace compared to at a much faster pace compared to their peer group. So that's one very fundamental quality which we look for. And then we have a very clear policy of hiring fast and firing even faster. So we don't believe in kind of carrying dead weight while we are trying to run a marathon. So even at the store level, our criteria is very, very, and we have all those. So we have created all those processes, all those that mechanisms. Yeah, sure.
One more question. Because you are scaled up in Bombay, okay, how do you address the rent issue as far as the decentralized location? Like suppose I can't have a rent as far as the locations are concerned.
Do you mind if I actually interject? Do you mind if I interject and actually say that I'd like to keep this in the more non-commercial aspects of the food business, because I think that's something that we don't cover enough. I don't get to exposed to enough. And probably you can take this up with him offline if you don't mind. On the red part, if you have a non-commercial aspect, I only want to talk about the fluid stuff, the stuff that people don't address. My spouse wants to kill me. Like that's a logical question.
Just shut up. And
Okay, and
But because I'm moderator, I have precedence, and I remember the question I wanted to ask Nipun. What are the pros or cons of scaling up?
Pros.
You have a definite idea of how you want to scale up, but what do you feel, if any? I mean, there can be a few words, a phrase, whatever. Pros or cons of scaling up.
Okay, so so I think pros are definitely, very clear. You make more money, more people get to know about your product, and
पैसा बन गया?
तो पैसा बनेगा अगर स्केल होगा, अभी नहीं होगा स्केल, ठीक है. So pros are definitely there. I think more than pros and so let's talk about the cons first. I think what what Rahul had mentioned at the beginning regarding, first I got the framework and then I know how to scale it up. I think that is important, because the cons in any business would be if you do not, if your framework is not right, you can go wrong while scaling up. So I think I was recently reading about Zynga in the paper, where they scaled up to n number of cities, and then they actually had to roll back. Some of our distributors are also distributors for Zynga, that's Hector Beverages, and they mentioned that they've taken a massive amount of returns from the market, and that is something that comes when probably you overestimate the demand, probably the right kind of teams and the right kind of marketing, right kind of marketing tools are not present. in that city and you go too aggressive. So I think those are the kind of cons that can happen. So I'll give you an example of what happened with us in Bombay specifically. We guys followed a very simple approach, and this is something which I'm a big advocate of this philosophy. Always and always pilot, and then you scale up. Pilot, pivot, scale up. Pilot, pivot till you get the pilot right. Set very clear success criteria, very
Finally, the
objective.
IIT comes out. Right? Finally.
It has to be that way. It has to be that way. So,
But it's true. It's a sensible approach.
it's a very sensible approach. So you
I
actually
don't know everything. I'll try it.
Yeah.
It'll be successful or it'll fail. If it'll fail, I'll tweak it. I'll try it again.
Yeah.
If it's successful, I'll do more of it.
absolutely.
That's what business is about.
Absolutely. And always, I mean, so when we guys started, we guys actually started by putting our products in 25 different stores in Bombay, which was a mix of, Nature's Basket and Hyper Cities, a few modern trade stores, and we also placed our product in some general trade stores, which would be like, Neelam and Cheda and, society stores. These are some general trade stores. Now, what we realized was, so we actually decided that we will not give the distribution to a distributor till we first understand the business ourselves. So for the first 6 months, we did not have a distributor. We did all the deliveries ourselves and collected payments and whatnot. What we realized was that our product, I'm not sure how many of you have actually seen the product, but it's fairly bulky. And a general trade in Bombay, like as you mentioned about the real estate prices, they're typically small, but they want to have a world of portfolio inside. So not all general trade stores could accommodate our product by giving it the right kind of visibility. At the same time, we're a startup. I don't have any TV or paper ads coming into the paper. So until and unless कोई देखेगा, तब तक वो बिकेगा नहीं. दिखेगा तो बिकेगा was the motto. And that is when we realized that the product is not successful in the lower, in the smaller general trade stores. Someone like a Premsons can stock my product, he has a bigger store. But a smaller store who does not give presence to my product, it's a failure there. We quickly, pulled our products back from there. And today, we are operating in most modern trade outlets in Bombay, except for DMart. And the general trade outlets have reduced from 50 to 10. And after getting that learning, now when we are scaling up to Bangalore and Delhi, we are saying that screw it, we don't even want to do general trade right now, we will only operate in modern trade. When we are able to create a threshold or some kind of attraction, when there is some kind of a pull that I am able to generate, and when I have the right kind of a product for general trade, that is when I will enter general trade. So the next product format that we are actually launching, it is not that bulky. It is actually in a canister format, like you have a box of Pringles or a bottle of alcohol is packed in that kind of a canister. So it's in a canister packaging. And what it addresses is that it occupies less space, it's stackable, and at the same time the price point is almost half of our current SKUs. That is something that I would scale up. So I think, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
It's very, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions.
And let's try and keep the question on.
Okay, the question for all three of you, with regards to your customer acquisition strategy, so what are the different things that you've tried? Do you have any success metrics for that? And with regards to what's the experience between with social media versus word of mouth? What works, what doesn't work, what works the best?
Yeah.
So I think it totally depends on the kind of business and the kind of product you have. So every business has to have a different customer acquisition strategy. It depends on your product. It depends for example, for Amit, maybe it will be more that it has to be seen everywhere. So for me, it will be more that people have to hear about it. So it totally depends on your business and your product that you have to design your customer acquisition strategy. So there can be no one fixed formula that you can have. That okay, this is what I will do and I will be able to get a lot of customers.
Now I'm going to ask what has worked for you and what hasn't.
Okay, so
especially with regards to social media, all the buzz around Facebook and all that.
so we've not
What's the
even
word of
started.
mouth?
We've not started social media yet. So for us, it's been mostly that. We believe a lot that the kind of product that we are in, our strength is in reaching out to people, talking to them, explaining to them what the product is, and then we are much more likely to get a hit and a conversion. So that's why we've not started social media. Right? Obviously, we cannot ignore it. It's a very, very big opportunity right now, and it's a very big media vehicle right now, obviously. So, but what we have realized is that to get credibility, for example, we've been written about in papers, in the media, that has really worked for us. Because when people read something in the papers or on good blogs or websites, that is when they actually want to try it out, and once they try it out, then they are more or less convinced about it.
So, two things, I'll talk about three things that we tried. Two of them didn't work. Sorry, one of them didn't work, the other two worked wonderfully. So, the first thing that we did was direct marketing. So, actually hiring students, these are college students who on part-time basis take up a job, and they would get a fair bit of training. They would stand in the store, they would advocate, or rather they would in pure terms, they would pitch your product to the consumer. And that's where we saw that the cost of customer acquisition was about 60 to 80 bucks. Because on a weekend, if I actually calculate the cost of what I would pay that guy and the number of pieces that he would sell, it's about 60 to 70 pieces. That has worked very well for us in hypermarket stores, wherein the footfalls are extremely high. In a boutique store like a Nature's Basket, that does not work that well. Two reasons. Number one, anything that I would do at a boutique store, until and unless it is experiential, the consumer just won't care. The consumer already knows what a pasta is. The consumer is much more educated. At the same time, the footfalls are lower, so the number of pieces that you'll be able to sell won't really be over. The second thing that really worked very well for us, and which is a part of our core strategy, is that we are trying to develop a market. We are trying to drive consumption of sauces. We're trying to drive the consumption of world foods at home. Today, I'm sure, probably more than half of you guys, when you think of eating a Thai curry or a Thai drunken noodles or a ravioli, you would never even think of cooking that at home until and unless you're a foodie and you like to cook. You would always think of a restaurant. What we're trying to do is trying to break that barrier. Now you can cook at home conveniently, and Chef's Basket is here to solve your problem. Some of the other product in our portfolio will help you do that. So we drive that through promos. There are 3 or 4 promos that we did. One of them at boutique stores was, so for hyper formats, direct marketing. So boutique stores, innovative value-added promos. There the consumers do not care about the price as much. So giving a pack of exotic pre-cut vegetables like broccoli, zucchini, cherry tomatoes, complementary with my product is something that worked pretty well. I could do that only on weekends. It has a 2-day shelf life, but worked pretty well. Giving a pack of freshly prepared strawberry salsa complementary with a pack of burritos. That's something that we did. In fact, we just completed 1 year at Nature's Basket, wherein we also tried to drive the positioning that we're a 100% natural brand. We actually did an offer where we gave a herb pot, like an actual plant, complementary with the product. So you could either pick basil, rosemary, or thyme, or there are these different plants. And we sourced that from another startup based out of Pune. So we could get that at a good price. At the same time, it was kind of co-branded, so it kind of helped them as well. These are the kind of promos that give us a good, cost per customer acquisition.
Let's race to 2 failures, as you said you wanted to highlight as well.
Yeah. So Facebook, for example. Honestly, my understanding of Facebook and the way the targeting and all that happens is very limited. So far, I have not been able to draw a correlation of my Facebook spend with my sales. The way we see it is, fine, we have like 26,000 fans, but who are these guys? It doesn't really kind of relate. So sometimes we're like, okay, is our agency doing something wrong? There's some random guy in Dubai liking my page. What the hell? I'm not even present there, kind of thing. But I think it's until and unless you're selling online and your product is such that if one gets enticed enough and clicks on it, likes to buy it, will go for it. Chef's Basket, unlike an organic milk, is not a product or a commodity that you could understand very clearly that fine, I'm buying an organic milk. It's as simple as an organic cow milk. What we're trying to sell is something that is a bit more complex. What we've realized is that people need to actually physically see it. So the first purchase coming through e-commerce is a bit tricky. So that's why Facebook, cost of consumer acquisition standpoint. From a branding standpoint, marketing standpoint, yes.
And the second one?
I just said one.
All right, next. So, question of report, right? Yeah. So it's really it's like a meal kit, right? So it's about the perishability and the health aspect of that. For example, for a lot of your material, and they said 6 months is the expiry date, right? But they had, I think they had broccoli or they had capsicums or peppers, right?
Yeah.
So how do you work on the correlation between perishability and health? Because health's the driver.
So I think that's a very interesting question. So number one, fresh is the best. Nothing beats fresh, right? In the packaged food format, you have to play around a bit to maintain the 100% natural claim. At the same time, a fine balance has to be drawn between health as well as the shelf life. I'll give you an example. One of our products is, so we as a brand, we claim that we are 100% natural, and that's what we believe. So, one of our packs is black bean and salsa burritos. One of the components inside that is tortilla wraps. Now, tortilla wraps has a shelf life of just 4 months if you do not add any artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. However, if you do, you can get a 9-month shelf life. So, we chose to go the natural way, and that is the reason that's the only one SKU which has a 4-month shelf life. We get the highest returns for that SKU. That's a massive cost. But I think the way to manage that is for some. You can try promos by giving some fresh components, but what you have inside the pack.
So my example of peppers. How do you get the peppers has a 2-day shelf life?
No, so what we give is peppers in vinegar. So just like you would see jalapenos or olives in those bottles, right? So vinegar is a natural preservative. So what we are giving is peppers and corn in vinegar. And at the same time, we mentioned that rinse it before you use, so that once you rinse it out of vinegar, it's fine to use. That works. But at the same time, it has limitations. Like I can't give broccoli. I want to, but I can't because I want a 9-month shelf life. However, I can try to. I can try to tell people that you can use broccoli, and that is where these promos help. So on every weekend, if you buy a pack and you get a pack of pre-cut broccoli and zucchini complimentary, that just tells the consumer that, oh, you can use it, and the next time he will think by himself and will customize. So driving customization is important. That's what these promos help.
Hi, sorry. Just a quick background. I run a catering and a food outsourcing business. Just going to share a quandary that I face right now in our business for 2.5 years old. I don't know if there's an answer, but maybe if it just resounds with your experience, you could share that. There's always a question mark on how fast should I be growing the business, because there's a huge investment attached, to doing something in the food business, especially because it's manufacturing in the end of the day, right? You've got to have people have this material going and very little margins left at the end of it. So we are wondering whether, we're looking at the outsourcing side of the business and saying that, no, I need a good software to sort of, manage our flow better. I need vans to deliver our, food better. I need, a chef who's probably going to charge me $1.5 lakh to make good food, consistent food. But when do I do that? Will I get the business first? Should I wait for the business to come in, then go up? So we're got stuck in, doing things which give us what they call the lemons, which is, the people who want to give a small business because we are small, and we're struggling to get the bigger business because we don't have probably the infrastructure right now to get somebody who has 5 or 10 outlets, also expecting us to do end-to-end delivery for them. So I'm just sharing something that, as an entrepreneur spending 2.5 years, now I'm at a stage that if I put more money into these things and it doesn't work out, it will just wash me out. But if I don't put it in well, I'm not sure if I can go beyond these one outlet sort of formats where it's just giving me some money, but it's not really making me go up or ahead. I don't know if I've got my quandary across to you, but that's something as an entrepreneur I constantly face, that should I be doing it right now? Is this the time to invest and then put it all in and see if it works out? I don't know if you guys have, for example, in Box 8, I'm sure you're taking a place and for a deposit of 5 lakh rupees, maybe a 4 lakh rupees, that means half outlet going into that. So do you do one more outlet and block your 5-8 lakhs there, or you hold back? And I don't know if you face those quandaries and whether you should scale up to the next level from there.
Right, so there are a couple of factors. Depending upon the confidence you have in your business model or business, whatever you are doing currently, right? So the way customers are responding to your services or your product, if your business at whatever level it is doing phenomenal, then it becomes very, very obvious to scale things up from there. And there is always a gut call, right? So as you mentioned that you can do experiments, you can try to kind of do experiments which are not that costly. You try to minimize your failure risk, that if you fail, so you take small steps, and it depends upon your level of confidence. The scientific way to do it would be take small steps. There are people who take big steps, and they are also equally successful. So it depends upon the level of confidence and level of conviction and level of kind of understanding you have in your business model and the way customers are perceiving you. So it would be it's a typical business call. So yeah, so.
And
Take it aside, not
just like, the sharing you all have had experiences of going through that thought process that, okay, do I do this and what sort of thought process?
So the best approach is take it step by step, take those baby steps so that you are ready for someday to take that giant step. So take one step at a time. Try to do your kind of expansion process, or try to kind of because there's chances that the first time you take a big step, it might go wrong. So try to do it one step at a time and try to minimize your risks.
I have a question. Right now you said that your marketing is largely word of mouth, isn't it? Now, the society I live in, we are looking at organic milk. And Nipun, I am your consumer because I am forever going to these designer stores, boutiques, and picking up various sauces to see what I could make for my daughter that's a bit different every day. But I'm not aware of either of you, or your products rather. There's a whole market out there that's waiting for this. Okay? Now when you talk about scale, when you talk about expansion, at what point of your journey would you say, okay, now is the time to get into something beyond word of mouth and a more professional approach so you really reach out in a big way? At what point do you do that?
I think that's a brilliant question, because I think that is where you have, as an entrepreneur, that is the toughest call that you have to take. Because till now, so you have to, as I mentioned in the first answer that I gave, that first you have to focus on a few things to get a few things right, and then the time for scaling up comes. For example, in our case, okay, till now, we were only focused on getting our distribution, our supply chain, because it's an extremely perishable product, it's an extremely early morning supply chain, and it's a 365-day job, be it Diwali, Holi, Ganpati, I cannot sleep, right? So basically now that we have got that really sorted, so it is very easy to set up a shop, and when you set up a shop, things will sell. But what is difficult is that do you have the adequate processes and systems to keep that running in place for the next 10 years or the next 20 years without any glitches. So only when you are comfortable that, okay, if I start in a new area tomorrow, will I be able to sustain that? So now that we have achieved that kind of a confidence in our supply chain and our distribution, now is the time to scale up for us. At least that's my belief, that now we have the base platform set, now we just have to build on it. So yes, I believe that now you might be hearing of us very soon. So till now, yes, you haven't. And yeah, word of mouth can only get you so far. It has got us from 22,000, but from 1,000 to 5,000, it will not be word of mouth. You have to reach out to people. So brands like us will always be push products in the beginning, and only after reaching a certain critical mass do they become full products.
I'm actually just going to jump into that and actually tie back what Rahul said to what we were discussing much earlier in a much more brief format, but that's actually a word of wisdom. Scaling up, I think, has a lot to do with focus. You've got to templatize and figure out that formula and be confident. I'll play with these three formulas, but this one works, and I'm going to bet on this one. And while this is doing its job, these three things can also be figured out, and then 4 of them can be scaled even further.
And I think it's also a function of money. So 2 things. One, so let's say today, I'll talk in context of Chef's Basket. Today I can spend 25 rupees per pack and create a promo pack of pre-cut vegetables, which kind of drives people to purchase our pack. However, the consumer that you're talking about, the right thing to do there is kind of have some advertisements in a magazine like BBC Good Food. We actually saved up some budget and we actually had a stall at this BBC Good Food show, the one that happened at Nehru Planetarium. There were almost 300 to 400 odd people. I think that's when Varun had met you as well. So that was not an easy call. We actually had to save up, and then we thought, let's at least do one event. after raising the funding, the next thing in the pipeline is let's do kind of a sampling or a pop-up cafe at a Wellington Club or a Bombay Gym, or let's tie up with BBC Good Food Show and do like a cooking event. Let me fly in a chef from Singapore and kind of do an Oriental theme at Godrej Nature's Basket. So all of these things, they involve money, and the plans are there. Very recently, we secured our first round of angel funding. Just last week, we actually closed that. And over the next 6 months, I mean, you will see a lot of things happening. But I think that's a valid question. Without spending on marketing, you cannot grow an FMCG brand at least. FMCG cannot grow without marketing.
Again, let me add to that. You're founded? Are you founded?
Yeah.
But first round, second round, right?
Caution and Leaders and IN as well.
Okay, good. And are you founded? No, you're currently market. We're founded all along the same journey. I think really good companies don't fail for lack of ideas, good companies fail for lack of cash. Right? The key is, are you confident that the formula works for you to go and raise cash? Because, while it's easier to convince the investors than to convince your parents, you still need to convince the investors that this formula works.
Hi, my name is Anil. And Amit, Boxade, I think, is now your third avatar of the brand, right? You started Poncho, became Vishu, now Boxade.
Yeah.
Now, that rebranding, the twice that you did that affect scale in any way? Because people started knowing Poncho, and suddenly you had Vishu. Now, of course, I think Boxade is the brand you're taking forward. But did that affect, recall, consumer recall? Because that is going to obviously, in my mind, when I was looking at Poncho when you were opening Powai, I recall that a lot. And then suddenly I saw your store become Boxade. So did that affect, and why the rebranding? Because any thoughts on scale getting affected with that?
Yeah, so it is more to do with our vision, right? So when we started, as I mentioned, we are a Mexican brand, and that's where that name Poncho came into the picture. And then we kind of rebranded, or we decided to go the Indian way, and we decided that the Indian market or Indian food is going to be much bigger opportunity. That was our understanding or our learning from the market, and we decided to rebrand it. And that's where Boxade came into the picture. Dishoom was a very kind of short-term name, which we kind of used for a month or so, but we were not able to build that final conviction on that name. It's more to do with those सही नहीं लग रहा है चलो कर देते हैं but सही नहीं लग रहा है. And the name is like kind of naming your venture, naming your brand is like naming your daughter, right? So this is very personal, and at the end of the day, what feels right is right. So that's where, and in whatever changes we have done, that we have done at a very early stage. So we changed very early. At that point of time, we have like 7-8 outlets, and since then we have scaled up into 20 outlets. So in early days it's possible and it's doable, but as you grow and as you have that customer base, suddenly rebranding can be a very costly exercise because you will have to re-educate your entire consumer base with your new brand. So at that point in time we had that liberty, and our rebranding exercise was not that costly, and we thought it would be right to kind of rebrand. That's where, yeah.
Ahmed, I just had one.
Sure.
I wasn't very clear about what exactly your business is. When you talk about ready-to-eat boxed food, is it only takeaways and home deliveries, or do you also have an area where people can sit and eat, or is that part of your scaling of the future? I'm not clear what it is that you focus on right
Sure.
now.
So there are these outlets across the city where there are limited seating. It's casual dining, so you can come and have food, and you can also home deliver order.
There's one down in this building as well.
Let's go all the way to the back.
I had a question for all three of you. In food business, the main thing is consistency. So any restaurant runs based on food quality or based on consistency. And don't you think that customers might get bored of this and they want new things? And how do you maintain the consistency, and what are the metrics you use? And how do you not fall into a trap of boring the customers?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, that consistency, delivering the same consistency or keeping up to the promise you have made to your consumer, that's very, very important. And when you get into any kind of business, right, so you try to do multiple things to ensure that consistency in food business. You try to have a kitchen, but those are minute details, right? In whatever form of business you are, you will have to set out those processes, and those processes would require you to take certain steps to ensure that while you are scaling it up, your consistency doesn't go for it all. So it differs from business to business, and you take the right measures to ensure while scaling up your product and service is consistent. And then about keeping your customers excited. So every now and then, every quarter or every 6 months, you need to come up with some exciting product, or you need to spice up your customer engagement. And there can be multiple ways around doing it. You might run certain promotions or certain interesting, put certain features there. You can play around with your packaging. You can play around with your product. You can introduce a new kind of box wrap or whatever it is. So yeah, you need to keep on creating those buzz for even kind of mature companies does it so.
Let's just quickly hear from both of you, and now let's move into current Joe mode and do a speed dating session. So let's take 5 questions more. Yeah, 5. Well, okay, 6 questions more. 7. Oh, 7 questions. But also we want all of you to answer much more zippily and quickly and swiftly and all that other stuff, right? Okay, so now any brand models.
My question is to Nipun. Like the quality is very important, and to get the right source when you are a startup, how to get the right quality from your source product so that you can make the quality very good which you are aiming for. So do you have any learnings in that? How do you maintain that?
Yeah, so quality is extremely important. As I said, the core thing that we have to that we sell is sauces. Everything else is a commodity, like pasta and olive oil. There, it is a very standard thing. You know what grade of olive oil you want or what grade of pasta you want. The one thing where you can screw up is the sauce. So the focus was to select the right vendors, some of the most reputed vendors in the country. And even if that would mean that it will take some time, but the idea is that you cannot screw up on the quality. So the sauce vendor who makes the sauce for us is a Surat-based company. Has been exporting to 35 countries. The fact that he's exporting and the kind of infrastructure that he has, that ensures basic hygiene levels, and the standards or the SOPs are maintained. He was not into the Western food. He loved the project when we met him, and we are his only client in India. So that way since we did not have the right quality measuring systems to begin with at a very advanced level, we thought we should rely on the manufacturer to some extent and have the parameters measured to ensure consistency. So as far as the quality is concerned, a guy who's been exporting to the US, I mean there are FDA norms in Europe, the kind of quality is maintained. So in a single shot he'll take 2 tons. As far as the consistency is concerned, after the recipe is made, there are these labs. I mean, in an FMCG thing, it's a bit technical, right? These labs would test the acidity, sugar level, and XYZ. There's a whole bunch of detailed report that comes out, and batch on batch, he has to match that. So that's how I get my consistency. Yeah.
Let's move on. Sorry, let's go this way. Let's just go sweeping across the room. You will get it done. Just shut up.
Hi, so all of you are very inspiring people for young entrepreneurs. My question is to Amit that your main business is into cash. If we talk about the delivery thing, they pay you cash, and when cash is involved, I think the high chances your manager or your store guy pocketing playing with it, or might be like you're giving him rice and out of 10 kgs, but only 5 kgs, 5 kgs he's selling outside. So how you try to manage all those complexities of your business?
Yeah, so so these are typical business problems. And in every business you have these kind of challenges, and these are kind of, I would say, once you get into the business, you will learn anyone would learn the basics, and you use technology and data, and you need to set those processes to kind of take you through these challenges. So I wouldn't say that these are kind of so mammoth challenge which you need to worry about when you are entering into this journey. So these are part of the game.
So you look after the input-output ratio and then...
Yeah, so those are fairly mathematical kind of relations which we need to
and otherwise just buy a whip.
Yeah.
So there's one gentleman in the back.
I just had one question to funding. If you guys got into early stage funding, what are the things that works while pitching it to an investor, especially for a product which you're trying to launch in India, where data, convincing by data might be a difficulty. So So if you guys got into a scenario where early stage or later stages you had this thing, what all things go?
Let's try all three of you answer that question, but in one word. Right? Just one thing that you thought made a big difference. On part of the product or part of or the part of the investor. The investor felt this way. So if we use the product, what about you?
It's the people, and you ask the investor.
People, right?
Yeah.
I think scalability.
The biggest challenge I have seen is that in terms of ROI, they have very huge expectations. So was this a similar thing with you as well? How do you convince on the
I think that I'm going to try and answer just in the interest of time. Of course, they're going to invest in you only if they're going to get an ROI. But I think the actual decision is based on simpler pillars: people, product, quality, things like that. Do you agree, all three of you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just that one thing that makes the decision.
The first round of funding, I don't think can ever come on basis of numbers, because
it means nothing.
That's not the right investment.
That's not right.
Yeah, to scale up the business, do you think that you will need a help of a consultant? Because you get into, you were a consultant in your corporate life. So
Consultants are fools. To be very honest, see, I think technical consulting when required, you can still go for it. So for example, I want to set up a plant to manufacture nachos or marinate olives. I want to know the technical know-how. I really need a food scientist. That is where I can probably look for the right guy, but not a random company. But companies that are giving you management consulting, then what the hell are you for? I would totally not rely on a consultant at all.
Yeah, my question to Amit. Suppose if you didn't have funding, what would you have done differently? Assuming if you didn't have a funding.
So, you will take, so money suddenly accelerate your growth path, right? So you can grow faster if you have money. So let's say your model is doing great, right? You have whatever scale you have, you are doing phenomenal rock star job. And in that hypothetical scenario in which you don't get money at all, you won't be able to scale it up that fast. But if you have a rock star model, the chances are that people will put in money behind you.
Question to all three of you is specifically to you, Nipun, and you, that you are in the product business, right? And you have a huge competitors in market already. Like for you, Amul perhaps would be the biggest challenge upcoming once you scale up. So have you thought of when you scale up that how you will take on that challenge in front of them?
Okay, so first of all, you need to, I think a very important question is you have to identify whom your competitors are. So for me, Amul is not a competitor because, so obviously he's the big daddy. But so Amul is in the mass market business. So that is the reason that your positioning has to be absolutely clear. That who is your target market, who are, and therefore who are your competitors. So I'm not going to fight with an Amul. Okay, my competitors are probably the premium milk brands that are out there in the market. And I think that for an industry that is as nascent as ours, competitors is actually good news, because then that means that the market is growing, and that just means that many more people to educate the market. So basically the pie is there, the pie is expanding, so everybody just takes their share of the pie.
Okay, my questions for all of y'all is, it's about decision making, because I have my own startup which is at an early stage, and I always have these moments where I don't know what to do or know what to do. So how do you go about that?
Do you have a co-founder?
Not yet.
So first thing is get one.
Should I get one or should I not get one?
So I think your decision making process will simplify a lot if you have a co-founder, because so you have a sounding board. Because see, as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of biases that come. Okay, so this I have thought this. Now I have thought this. I have thought through everything. This will certainly work. But what you need is, you always need a devil's advocate, so to say, that you have to find out, okay, what can be the flaw in the strategy. And that as an entrepreneur, that is exactly your job. Like for everything else, going forward, you need to have a team in place who will do the execution. Your role is decision making. So for that, you cannot rely on anyone else.
Raj, if you like to add or?
No, it's good. Right? And even if you can't make those decisions, toss a coin.
Toss a coin.
to answer the earlier gentleman's question about competition.
Yeah, and a lot of times which might look as competition from outside, most of the time it's like rich man's problem for once you are into the business. So the day I'm actually a competition for Domino's, or that is I'm halfway done. So yeah.
Nipun, I want your answer also. Your take on this.
Yeah, well, so I think so. At present, we do not have a direct competition. There is an indirect competition. I think what I would like to build on what Rahul mentioned, you need to specifically choose what you are playing in. So, for example, we have one brand that is playing across cuisines. However, most other brands, they are cuisine specific. Secondly, the agility, the rate at which you can innovate quickly and put things in the market. For someone like Doritos, it will take almost a year to kind of conceptualize a new product and do testing and all of that. So you can be quick. Third is we are actually skipping a level and going to, so we are playing in the value-added segment. Instead of selling a bottle of sauce, what we're going to put in the market in the next month is a pack of sauce plus topping. So like in Arabia, the pasta sauce with char-grilled cherry tomatoes, like a combo pack, value-added. Nachos with dip in a single tray pack. So we're actually skipping the value chain and going to the next level, just saying we will give you a value-added product, and that's the segment that we play in. And that is one space for the bigger companies. The size of price is so small that they won't enter at this point of time. And by the time they do choose to enter, by that time you should have your nth product already there or your nth idea already being implemented.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question to Rahul. What is organic?
Yeah, I get that a lot. So basically the production process is organic. So organic milk is nothing, it's just milk, it's milk. So basically the production process is organic, that the fodder that is fed is organic, so with no pesticides, no fertilizers. They are allowed to roam freely in the farm, they never died up, they're not injections, hormones, etc. So the quality, basically it's natural milk, like how it was supposed to be, but with all the commercialization and adulteration, we changed the product a lot. So we're just going back to the basics, like what your grandmother used to have.
And apart from the word organic, how is it actually beneficial for the consumer?
See, having a pure product is always good for you, right? So basically it is much more nutritious in the sense that so we mentioned that at the back of our pack also, like omega-3, the vitamins A, D, etc. So that obviously is beneficial for you, and secondly, you're not getting more and more pesticides and fertilizers into your body. So that is also.
Okay, time for one last question. If you have it, Dinesh looks curious. He's not going to ask the question now. Anyways, thank you very, very, very much. Thank you, Rahul, Amit, and Nipun. Wish you all very, very well. Another interesting thing that just came to mind actually along the entrepreneur journey, we loosely touched upon this, but I'm going to point it anyways. I'm a big fan of movies, a big fan of Mahatma Gandhi. I also like Sanjay Dutt. But Mahatma Gandhi's saying actually comes to mind. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight with you, and then you win. You must remember that perseverance actually is one of the most important journeys in Sunil Mittal's life, in Larry Page's life, in Richard Branson's life, and is always going to be in our lives as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's very interesting thought there. It's going to be lingering in our minds for a long time. Very interesting. I didn't know you liked Mahatma Gandhi. For all the years that I know, I knew you liked Sanjay Dutt, but I didn't know you liked Mahatma Gandhi. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Nipun. A small token of appreciation from Ty. Thank you. Well, unfortunately, these aren't checks for the fund. This is a small token of our appreciation. And what we normally do is we make a donation on your behalf, so you can feel good that I made it. I've done good. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. We have a small, quick session, which we.